The Quartic Duel. Act 1. The Oath Shattered. The question hanging heavy in the Italian air wasn't algebraic, but ethical. When a man's sworn oath is broken, what price must be paid? The ink was barely dry on Girolamo Cardano's monumental Ars Magna, 1545, a work that unveiled the long-sought secrets of the cubic equation. But for Niccolò Tartaglia, this publication was not a triumph of mathematics, a profound act of betrayal. He had, years earlier, revealed his hard-won method to Cardano under the most solemn oath of secrecy. Now, seeing it printed for all the world, Tartaglia's fury erupted. "I gave him my discoveries as to a confessed father," he wrote, bitterness searing the page, under solemn oath that he would never publish them. Yet he has shattered his faith and made himself a liar before the world. At the storm's center stood Cardano himself, 1501 to 1576, a figure as dazzlingly brilliant as he was undeniably controversial. A physician of growing renown, a mathematician of genius, yet also drawn to the shadows of astrology and the thrill of gambling. His life was a tapestry of intellectual highs and personal struggles. Born illegitimate, facing illness and stigma, he possessed an almost ferocious drive for recognition. Publishing the cubic solution in Ars Magna, even while acknowledging Tartaglia and discovering Scipione del Ferro's prior, secret work, fit his ambition. He saw mathematics, perhaps, as his surest path to lasting fame. The counterattack came swiftly. In 1546, Tartaglia published his own book, New Problems and Inventions, penning a furious denunciation. He accused Cardano not just of breaking faith, but of perjury, a devastating charge in that devout era. It was a public declaration of war, aimed at destroying Cardano's reputation. Cardano, however, remained aloof, perhaps strategically distancing himself. The defense came not from the master, but from his fiery young protégé, Lodovico Ferrari. Act 2 champions stepped forth. Lodovico Ferrari, the protégé's fire. Lodovico Ferrari's story was one of meteoric ascent. Taken into Cardano's household as a poor servant boy around age 14, his astonishing mathematical aptitude was quickly recognized. Cardano transformed him from servant to student, then collaborator. By his late teens, Ferrari hadn't just mastered Cardano's teachings, he had surpassed them, achieving a staggering feat: the first general method for solving quartic, fourth-degree equations, reducing them to solvable cubic forms. Now a young man burning with talent and fierce loyalty, Ferrari saw Tartaglia's attack on Cardano as an assault on the man who had lifted him from obscurity. "I was raised from dust to dignity through Cardano's generosity," he might have declared. "Now I shall defend his name with the very tools of reason he taught me to wield." Gratitude mingled with ambition. Defeating the famous Tartaglia offered a chance to etch his own name into the annals of mathematics. Niccolò Tartaglia, the master's bitterness. By 1547, Tartaglia was no longer the determined outsider who had bested fear. He was an established figure, lauded for his work on ballistics and his translations of ancient masters. Yet the publication of Ars Magna gnawed at him. The cubic formula, his discovery wrested from the darkness, the key that should have secured his legacy, was now popularly known by Cardano's name. His public pronouncements grew sharper, more personal. He felt robbed not just of priority, but of his life's defining moment. "I discovered through my own intellect what had eluded the greatest minds," he asserted, framing the conflict as a quest to reclaim stolen glory. "This prize was taken from me through deception and false oaths. Now I shall reclaim what is rightfully mine." For Tartaglia, the stakes felt existential. The challenge ignites. Unlike the structured duel with fear, this conflict escalated through venomous public letters. Ferrari opened, defending Cardano, pointing out Del Ferro's prior discovery, information Cardano had uncovered, and questioning Tartaglia's sole claim. He boldly challenged Tartaglia's skills, asserting his own superiority despite being younger. Tartaglia retorted with disdain, refusing to engage directly with Ferrari. "I have no quarrel with servants," he sneered, aiming his barbs solely at Cardano. 6 letters flew back and forth, each more hostile than the last. Ferrari posed complex mathematical problems, probing Tartaglia's knowledge. Tartaglia deflected with insults about Ferrari's background. Finally, Ferrari issued an ultimatum, a public debate in Milan. Before nobles and scholars, they would settle matters of mathematics and honor. After initial refusals to debate with a servant, Tartaglia, perhaps sensing Ferrari's challenges were exposing vulnerabilities, finally accepted. Act 3. The arena in Milan. The stage was set for a public spectacle. Milan, Cardano's home ground, was chosen, a strategic risk for Tartaglia. The Church of the Garden would be the arena, Governor Ferrante Gonzaga the judge. Nobles, scholars, and students would pack the hall, witnesses to an unprecedented intellectual showdown where careers and patronage hung in the balance. Ferrari prepared rigorously, crafting 31 challenges designed to exploit any weaknesses in Tartaglia's mathematical armor. Tartaglia arrived on August 10, 1548, perhaps relying too heavily on his established fame and the perceived audacity of his young opponent. Conspicuously absent was Cardano. Having navigated controversies before, like his early struggles with Milan's College of Physicians due to his birth status, he chose strategic retreat, letting his brilliant student champion his cause while he focused on his diverse scholarly pursuits. Yet, the shadow of Ars Magna, the very book that sparked the conflict and showcased Cardano's synthesis of algebraic knowledge, loomed large. The contest would follow the old ways of disputation, problems posed and solved, arguments over mathematics intertwined with arguments over ethics and priority, judged on both correctness and persuasive power. It was mathematical combat in its rawest form. Act 4. The confrontation. The air in the Church of the Garden on August 10th was thick with anticipation. Ferrari seized the initiative. He began not with equations, but with a meticulous defense of Cardano, presenting evidence of Del Ferro's prior discovery and highlighting Cardano's acknowledgement of both predecessors in Ars Magna. He framed Cardano not as a thief, but as a synthesizer who brought hidden knowledge to light. Then, the mathematical assault began. Tartaglia likely expected a battle centered on cubic equations, his claimed territory. Instead, Ferrari shifted the ground, unleashing problems involving quartic equations, his own groundbreaking work, and complex geometric challenges. It was an intellectual ambush. Ferrari combined sharp logic with cutting rhetoric. He didn't just solve problems. He demonstrated methods that seemed beyond Tartaglia's grasp. The established master found himself on the defensive, struggling to keep pace with the younger man's innovations and confident delivery. The audience watched, captivated and perhaps disturbed, as the famous Tartaglia visibly faltered under Ferrari's relentless questioning. By day's end, the tide had turned decisively. The debate had become a demonstration of Ferrari's prowess and Tartaglia's limitations in these newer areas. The flight. What happened next sealed Tartaglia's fate in this contest. Facing the prospect of another day of relentless intellectual pressure and a clearly unfavorable audience, Tartaglia made a drastic choice. Under the cover of darkness, before the second day of the debate could commence, Niccolò Tartaglia fled Milan. His silent departure was a tacit admission of defeat. Ferrari stood alone, the uncontested victor. Governor Gonzaga lauded his performance, and powerful figures in Milan, impressed by his brilliance, immediately offered him patronage and positions. For Ferrari, it was utter triumph. For Tartaglia, it was a humiliating rout. Act V. Diverging paths. The Milan debate irrevocably altered the lives of the participants. Ferrari, the former servant, was instantly propelled to mathematical stardom. Prestigious appointments and the backing of Milan's elite followed. His solution to the quartic equation, now proven on the grandest stage, secured his place as a leading innovator. Tartaglia's fortunes plummeted. His flight from Milan was seen as cowardice, shattering his authority. He returned to Brescia to find his professional standing diminished, eventually losing his teaching post there. Though he continued his mathematical endeavors until his death in 1557, he never recaptured the influence or acclaim he held before the disastrous Milan debate. Cardano, defended and vindicated by his protégé, without having to engage directly, saw his reputation enhanced. Ars Magna stood as a landmark achievement, cementing his status as a leading intellectual figure across Europe, allowing him to continue his prolific work in medicine, mathematics, and philosophy. The duel, born from accusations of broken trust surrounding the publication of secrets, had ended with careers made and broken under the public gaze. It starkly highlighted the tension in Renaissance Italy between the tradition of guarding knowledge for personal advantage and the emerging drive to publish discoveries for wider recognition and the advancement of the art itself. The echoes of that confrontation in Milan, the brilliance, the bitterness, the ambition, the flight, would resonate through the scholarly communities, leaving questions about honor, priority, and the very nature of mathematical progress.